The dorm room was small, but it was hers. Claire unpacked her boxes, her excitement battling the faint scent of stale air. She wasn't worried about the rumours of the dorm being haunted. Ghosts were for campfire stories, not college dorms. She had more important things to worry about, like acing her exams and making new friends. The room had a large window overlooking a courtyard. Students laughed and chatted as they moved below. She hung her clothes, arranged her books, and finally collapsed onto the bed with a sigh. As the light began to fade, Claire decided to head down to the common room to introduce herself. With a last glance around her new domain, Claire grabbed her keys and stepped out, ready to face whatever or whoever awaited her. The first week passed without incident. Claire made a few friends, attended her classes, and even found a favourite spot in the library. One evening, while studying at her desk, the lights flickered. It was a brief interruption, easily dismissed as a power surge, but it happened again and again, until finally the room plunged into darkness. Claire fumbled for her phone, the sudden darkness unsettling. The silence of the room seemed to press in on her. Suddenly there was a loud bang from the other side of the room. Claire jumped, her heart pounding. She shone her phone's light around the room, but there was nothing out of place. The bang seemed to have come from the wardrobe, but it was closed tight. She told herself it was probably just the old building settling. She left the room and went down the hall to ask the resident advisor about the power outage. The lights came back on later that night, but the unsettling feeling remained. Claire tried to shake off the experience, attributing it to old wiring and an overactive imagination. But as the days turned into weeks, more strange occurrences plagued her. She'd wake up with unexplained bruises on her arms, feel a cold spot in the middle of the room, and hear faint whispers at night. The whispers were the worst. They seemed to slither from the shadows just at the edge of her hearing. One night, the whispers escalated. They became louder, more insistent, circling her bed like a predator stalking its prey. Claire lay frozen in terror, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. The next morning, Claire woke up feeling drained, as if she hadn't slept at all. Driven by a mixture of fear and curiosity, Claire began to investigate. She searched online for information about the dorm's history, but found nothing helpful. Frustrated, she decided to take a more hands-on approach. She started by examining her room, looking for any clues that might shed light on the strange occurrences. Just when she was about to give up, her gaze fell on the old wardrobe in the corner. Curiosity piqued, Claire tried to open the wardrobe, but it was locked. She found an old rusty key on her keyring and, on a whim, tried it in the lock. The wardrobe door creaked open, revealing a musty interior filled with forgotten belongings. Tucked away in the back corner, almost hidden from view, was a small leather-bound diary. The diary was filled with the neat, looping handwriting of a young woman named Emily. As Claire read through the faded pages, a story began to unfold, a story of loneliness, fear, and a tragedy that had haunted the dorm for decades. Emily had been a student at the college in the 1960s. She was a bright but shy girl, struggling to fit in with her peers. The diary entries were filled with longing for connection, for someone who understood her. She wrote about feeling like an outsider, invisible to the world around her. One entry, dated a few months before the fire, sent chills down Claire's spine. Emily wrote about experiencing strange occurrences in her room, objects moving on their own, whispers in the dead of night, and the feeling of being watched. She described the same cold spot that Claire had felt, the same unsettling presence that seemed to permeate every corner of the room. Claire read on, her heart pounding in her chest. She learned that Emily had tried to tell people about what was happening, but no one believed her. Isolated and terrified, Emily retreated further into herself, finding solace only in the pages of her diary. Then came the entry that explained everything. On a stormy night in November 1964, a fire broke out in the dorm. The building was quickly engulfed in flames, trapping many students inside. Emily, trapped in her room, wrote about the smoke filling her lungs, the heat scorching her skin. Her final words were a desperate plea for help, a cry for someone to save her from the inferno. Claire closed the diary, her mind reeling. Emily's story was both heartbreaking and terrifying. Among the trinkets in the box, Claire found a silver necklace. It was tarnished with age, but still beautiful. A delicate heart-shaped locket hung from the chain. Claire picked it up, her fingers tracing the engraved initials on the front, E.M. Emily's necklace. Holding the necklace, Claire felt a surge of sadness, a profound sense of loss for a life cut short. She realized that Emily wasn't a malevolent spirit, but a lost soul trapped in the place of her death. She was reaching out not to harm, but to connect, to find peace. Claire knew what she had to do. She had to help Emily find peace. The next day, Claire went to the college library, determined to uncover more about Emily's life and the fire that had claimed her. She spent hours poring over old yearbooks, newspaper archives and microfiche records, piecing together fragments of information about Emily and the tragic events of that night. She discovered that Emily had been a talented artist, her sketches praised for their raw emotion and unique perspective. But she had also been plagued by rumours, whispers of strange behaviour and an unsettling air. Some students even claimed to have seen her talking to herself, her voice a low, mournful murmur. The more Claire learned about Emily, the more convinced she became that the young woman had been deeply misunderstood. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Claire decided to visit Emily's final resting place. She found the address in the obituary section of an old newspaper and took a bus to the outskirts of town, where a small cemetery overlooked the sea. The air was thick with the scent of salt and damp earth. Seagulls cried overhead as Claire walked among the weathered headstones, her eyes searching for Emily's name. She found it etched on a simple granite marker, the inscription worn by time and the elements. Emily Marie Hawthorne, 1946 to 1964, beloved daughter and friend. Claire knelt before the grave, her fingers tracing the engraved letters. She took out Emily's necklace and laid it gently on the headstone, a silent offering of respect and remembrance. "Emily," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the sound of the wind. "I know you're here. I've read your diary. I know you were scared and alone, but you're not alone anymore. I'm here now." As she spoke, Claire felt a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle change in the air pressure. The wind seemed to die down, the seagulls' cries fading into the distance. A sense of peace settled over her, a feeling of calm she hadn't experienced since moving into the dorm. She sat there for a long time, lost in thought, the weight of Emily's story heavy on her heart. She didn't know if Emily's spirit had found peace, but she hoped that her words, her presence, had brought some measure of comfort. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Claire knew it was time to leave. She stood up, brushing the dirt from her knees. She took one last look at Emily's grave, a sense of closure washing over her. Claire left the cemetery with a heavy heart but a lighter spirit. She had faced her fears, uncovered a hidden tragedy, and perhaps even brought a measure of peace to a restless soul. But as she made her way back to the dorm, a nagging question lingered in her mind. Was Emily truly at peace? Or did her presence still linger within the walls of the old building, a shadow from the past forever intertwined with the present? Back in her room, the air felt different, lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. The cold spot was gone, the whispers silenced, but a sense of melancholy remained, a reminder that some stories don't have easy endings. Emily's story might be over, but the echoes of her pain, her loneliness, and her tragic fate would forever be woven into the fabric of the old dorm. If you liked this video, like it and subscribe to my channel.